Hi everyone, and welcome to the instructor video on reading film. This video teaches you how to look at films critically in order to generate meaning from specific techniques and scenes. In the previous instructor video, entitled What is a Movie?, we defined a motion picture as a series of still images viewed so quickly that the human eye and brain sees it as fluid movement. Narrative films, a type of motion picture, rely on the strategic assemblage of shots and editing to tell a story. But how exactly do movies convey meaning? What are the secrets to so-called movie magic? This video introduces some answers to these questions. Movies are able to convey meaning to the audience because of two primary reasons. One, the co-expressibility of time and space, and two, the co-mediation of sound and image. Co-expressibility and co-mediation might sound like intimidating words, but these concepts are inherently familiar to most movie watchers. Let's explore the definitions of these words to understand their importance in the movies. The term co-expressibility refers to the inseparable relationship between time and space in film. When a viewer watches a movie, that viewer understands that whatever is featured on screen exists within a specific time and space, and that those two factors are dependent on one another. Art historian and film theorist Erwin Panofsky described this phenomenon as the dynamization of space and the spatialization of time. But put simply, a film's co-expressibility enables the viewer to imagine a movie as a world of its own. Now let's unpack co-mediation. Co-mediation refers to the relationship between sound and image in film. Since the popularization of synchronized sound in the late 1920s, most films have relied on the combined, simultaneous effects of sound and image to tell a story. Co-expressibility and co-mediation work together to create what viewers see and hear on screen. Consider, for example, when we see and hear a dog barking in a movie. When we see and hear a dog barking on screen, we, as the viewer, accept that this scene occurs within the presented time and space, and that the sound of the bark is associated with the image of the dog. This is co-expressibility and co-mediation in action. Now that we understand the fundamentals of co-expressibility and co-mediation, let's consider how else filmmakers convey meaning through movies. Everything that we see in a film is filtered through a camera, a device that imitates and exaggerates the abilities of the human eye. The camera, for example, can use different kinds of lenses, shoot from different positions and angles, use different movements, and catch different lighting, among other differences. In this way, the camera can be more selective than the human eye, and filmmakers make certain decisions to manipulate what the viewer sees. Consider, for instance, the opening shots of Sergio Leone's 1968 spaghetti western, Once Upon a Time in the West, which is linked in the Week 2 module on Brightspace. Although the first 40 seconds of the film's opening scene do not contain any dialogue, that is, there is no conversation between characters, these opening shots convey quite a bit of meaning to the viewer. Please pause the video here and watch the opening shots of Once Upon a Time in the West in Brightspace. Now that we've watched the clip, let's analyze the first 40 seconds of Once Upon a Time in the West. We'll begin by analyzing each of the shots included in this sequence. The first 40 seconds of this scene contains 5 shots that have been spliced together through the editing process. In the first shot, a train departs a station, and 3 men silently gaze across the tracks at another man standing alone and playing the harmonica. The second shot is a close-up of the harmonica player's face as he studies the 3 men across the tracks. The third shot imitates the harmonica player's point of view, with the camera seeming to look over his shoulder at the men across the tracks. By the way, this technique is called shot reverse shot and is used to establish continuity in a sequence. The fourth shot is a close-up of one of the three men across the tracks. And the fifth shot returns to the harmonica player as he lowers his instrument and studies the men across the tracks. As I've mentioned, there isn't any dialogue in this sequence, but the filmic techniques incorporated in these first 40 seconds suggest information to the viewer about the setting, the characters, the mood, and the plot of the film. For instance, although there aren't any sweeping shots of the setting, what we can see through the camera about the landscape, as well as the characters' costumes, suggests that this film takes place in the western United States, which is true. This film takes place in Arizona in the 1880s. Additionally, the positionality of the featured characters, that is, the three men standing on one side of the tracks and the one man standing on the other side of the tracks, suggests that these men might be enemies, or are at least somewhat opposed to one another. You may have also noticed that the harmonica player is wearing a white cowboy hat and other light clothing, while the other three men wear dark hats and other dark clothing. In westerns, these choices often signify good guys versus bad guys. White hat cowboys tend to be heroic protagonists, or main characters, and black hat cowboys tend to be villains. This characterization is strengthened through the steely, cautious way the men look at one another, as if they're sizing each other up before a fight. Finally, the combined visual and oral techniques used in these shots affect the film's mood by emphasizing the isolated nature of the setting and building suspense between the characters. These choices can make viewers feel tense, causing them to pay close attention to the action on screen. This exercise demonstrates that, just in these first 40 seconds, the viewer can surmise quite a bit about Once Upon a Time in the West. As you watch films in this class, and on your own, I hope you'll practice identifying filmmakers' creative choices and analyzing how those choices affect viewers' understanding of the movie. Don't worry if this exercise is difficult at first. I promise it gets easier with practice. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has demonstrated the difference between watching a movie casually and looking at a movie critically. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out via email. Until next time.